What was intended to be a very quick video, and that was going to be doing the firmware update on the Sony A7S III to version 4, ended up taking me a very long time. The reason why it's taken me so long is since I've had the A7S III, I've not updated the firmware once. And then I saw on the Sony website that I actually had to do the firmware updates in chronological order. So because my firmware at 2.1 was earlier than 2.11, I needed to go to 2.15 first and then 3.01. More recently, I've been used to doing firmware updates where I download the file onto the SD card and then put straight into the camera body and then just update it from there. But what I found is that I actually had to then go through and connect it via USB-C and run through the application on either Mac or Windows. However, I did run into a hiccup on the Mac side, and it was saying that I needed a Sony camera driver. Oddly enough, the error message came up in Japanese, so instead I decided to move over to a Windows machine and run the update from there, and I had no issues at all. I ran the application and it went through the whole process of installing version 2.15, and then I had to run it again for version 3.01, and then here we are right now. Now that I'm 3.01, I'm now at the process which I'm more familiar with, which is actually downloading and installing the file, putting it onto the SD card, and then actually running it from there. So if I was just to go through and hit menu, version, you now see software update as an option. So if I was just to click software update, it's going to give me the precaution message. Just going to scroll down to the bottom, execute, and now it's just going to go through the process of doing the update. As you can see, it's running through the software update over here. Make sure you got a full battery charged. I did, of course, have the HDMI cable plugged in because I was doing a screen record of the menu itself, as you just saw. But now it's doing the update. It's not going to pump out any image, so therefore we're now on the overhead camera up top. I forgot to time it, but to be honest, it's only been running for a couple seconds at this point. I'm just going to put a stopwatch just over here. Body update is now complete, so if I was just to hit OK. So as you can see, I'm now on version 4. Now I'm upgraded to version 4, I figured I'd just discuss why I finally decided to upgrade to version 4 from version 2.10. Over the past couple of years, I've just been shooting standard picture profile, so I'm not really grading my images. I have shot S-Log a couple times when I do need to grade and have to have something a bit more specific, but for the most part, I'm shooting stuff for social media and I'm just running on standard picture profile and just churning this stuff out quite quickly. And part of the reason why I shot in standard picture profile is because I don't enjoy looking at the back of the screen when I'm just seeing everything all grayed out in its S-Log flat form. But now version 4 has allowed you to put a display LUTs on, so you can actually view what the image would look like as a final product, or at least closer to the final image. So now it's got display LUTs. I can shoot in S-Log 3, but review the image in Rec 709 or any LUT that I'm choosing to. So when I'm showing the client or whoever I'm working with what the image looks like, they're not having to try and envision and imagine what it could look like when it's just not in its S-Log form. But now I'm going to import some LUTs into the camera. These are just the standard color conversion LUTs, which I've downloaded from the Sony website. So now I'm just going to go and import the LUTs. So if I go to exposure color, color tone, down to manage user LUTs, import into slot 1. As you can see, it's all still gray. I just need to enable display LUTs on. And now you can see it's looking a little bit more normal. I'm just going to turn off display LUTs just so you can see the difference. So after the video is done, I'm just going to go through and reconfigure my camera because I didn't save my user settings from before. That's a learning from my mistakes. And maybe there's something that you need to consider when you're about to do your firmware update, just to make sure that you do save it. There is a prompt somewhere down the line. I just failed to bother with it. My settings aren't too highly complex anyway, so I'm happy to just reconfigure it. It takes no time at all. One thing that I do wish that they did do for the version 4 update, and that's to update the aspect markers. Because as before, I mentioned that I shoot mostly for social media. There's an element where I get asked to do landscape and vertical videos quite often. When you're shooting in 4K, you do have enough resolution for a 1080 by 1920 in the center frame. Having the aspect markers does allow you to frame up for the vertical shot as well as the landscape wide shot. I have that feature on my A7SIII II and the FX30, but I don't have it on the A7S III. I do find that quite frustrating that they didn't just do that, because an aspect marker sounds like a very easy thing to add into firmware, but maybe it's just not a priority for whoever's coding the firmware updates. I am hoping that moving forward, it's just going to be a standard thing that all Sony cameras will have a 9:16 aspect marker. I can't imagine the Sony A7S III receiving any more firmware updates, so I doubt we're going to see aspect markers for 9:16 in this camera. Otherwise, there's just a quick video on how to update the A7S III to version 4 and how to update and turn on your display LUTs. Let me know if you found that video useful at all. Cheers for watching.